The Braves had one of their best months in August. Now they're ready for a playoff run.
This is Locked On Sports Atlanta, and it's time for the Atlanta Baseball Party, only on Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Atlanta Baseball Party, your home for the best Atlanta Braves baseball talk. It's local insight you can't get anywhere but right here at Locked On. I'm your host, Tenitra, Batiste. Alongside me is Jarvis Davis, and today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. The Atlanta Baseball Party is also part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, we like the highway robbery from MH2, but Whit doesn't like his life being put in jeopardy. We'll talk about that. And can the impending return of the heart and soul of the Braves pay dividends? We'll also discuss. But first, let's get into the Braves run in August that may have them primed for an even bigger run. Jarvis, despite dropping 3 straight games to end the month of August, it was still the Atlanta Braves' best month of baseball since April. So for you, what were some of the best aspects of their 16-13 turn that encourages you about them maybe ending the regular season strong?
It has to be the pitching staff, right? And of course, I know we're going to talk about Chris Sale, but I want to kind of highlight Renaldo Lopez, because when you think about what he's been able to do, this dude hasn't given up more than 1 run since July 22nd. More than 1 earned run since July 22nd, T. And it was one of his worst outings, right? He had given up 4 runs against the Cincinnati Reds. So when you think about it from that standpoint, okay, he was able to lock in and just went on a streak of no earned runs, 1 earned run, 1 earned run, and 1 earned run. And we think about what he had to deal with coming out of the All-Star break and dealing with those injuries and having to kind of work his way back. But like you said, it's a reason why the month of August was so great for the Braves to their standards, right? Given what we've been having to deal with throughout this entire season, they were able to have one of their best months because that pitching staff has been so consistent for them. I want to use solid, but I think they deserve a little bit better than that. They've been so consistent for this team and this squad, and it's the reason why they have set themselves up to push to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that you gave a caveat of we have to think about where this team has been the entire season. We have to think about all of the injuries that they have had to deal with, because when you look at it, technically it looks like, okay, yeah, the Braves went 16-13 in August, but everybody kind of around them fighting for their playoff lives, fighting for their wild card lives. Padres went 18-10, D-backs 18-9, and of course, Mets, and not that the Phillies are looking for a wild card spot, but they both went 15-13. But because the Braves have been treading water for so long, that 16-13 is so very critical, especially when you look at the fact that the Braves had good series against teams like the Brewers, who, if they had to go into the postseason tomorrow, that's who they'd be facing. That's where they'd have to travel to. So that's the kind of thing that makes it encouraging in what we were all able to see in August. In the past, the interesting thing is when you look at, kind of that output, right? Runners in scoring position, always the issue for the Braves. And that's the type of thing that actually improved. But like you said, it was the pitching. It continued to be on one, because the only team that the Braves trail as far as what they were able to do in the month of August in pitching is the Astros, as far as FWAR and full innings pitched for that month. Why do we point to the fact that full innings pitch is so important? Because you do not want to tax your bullpen. Also, you're looking at a guy like Renaldo Lopez, who started the season and you weren't even thinking of him as a guy who was going to be a part of that pitching rotation. And let's be honest, nobody knew, not even Alex Anthopoulos, that we would get this much productivity or production from Chris Sale. So the fact that we're talking about only one team being better than the Braves in the month of August in terms of getting full pitching, like a sound outing from so many of their pitching staff members, I mean, that's really incredible. And that is one of the key components, if not the most key component, in how they were able to bounce back and have their best month of the season.
And also, I gotta give a shout out to Matt Olson, because We've
Yeah.
been trying to figure out where this dude is. Where's Matt? Trying to figure out where Matt Olson is.
Mhm.
He was here in the month of August, 8 home runs, 27 RBI, an OPS of 900. For those who
Yeah.
don't know, that is a combination of on base percentage and slugger percentage. So that means he's getting on base and he's going yard. So,
Mhm.
if
Yeah.
you want, if to put it quite simply, so for him to be able to come on like he's been in the month of August, like we understand what he was able to do. He was absolutely amazing last year. I'm talking about
Yeah.
54 home runs. That is absolutely ridiculous. So I think that that pitching staff and also the guys like Matt Olson heating up. I'm talking about
Yeah.
at the and Lord knows the Braves have needed it because, like you
Yeah.
said, we've had so many injuries, throughout the season, and I think that there are some key components that came together there for them in the month of August, and I'm all here for it, and they're pushing to the playoffs because of it. Too.
And I like the fight that we saw in them because honestly, you look at winning 6 or 7, then you lose 6 in a row, and it's like, oh man, that's how it started in July. But then you started to see them really pick things up again, and they're able to get on a roll and win 5 series. And we know that that's so important because you never know when you might get down to tiebreakers, and being able to win those series could be very, very critical down the stretch. Now, you mentioned him. Chris Sale, another masterful performance in the Braves 3-0 shutout of the Rockies Tuesday. He became the first lefty in franchise history, which is unbelievable, in Braves franchise history to surpass 200 strikeouts in a season. So when you look at Sale's production, you got to think to yourself, has anyone in this Braves organization this season done more than Chris Sale to keep this Braves team afloat for a shot at the postseason?
No, no,
In
because
a word?
every
No.
every time he comes to the mound, all I hear or all I envision when Chris Sale comes to the mound, 7 innings, almost double-digit strikeouts, maybe 1 or 2 runs. He pitched a shutout, last night against the Rockies. So yeah, like no walks. Like this dude is just an absolute machine. He's a
Yeah.
machine to eat. Like
Yeah.
and just in this season, I feel like it's highlighted even more because we've seen so much inconsistency, at the plate, and then with injuries and guys coming off of
Mhm.
injury, it's kind of hard to get into a groove. We know how much rhythmic the baseball players are when it comes
Yes.
to this game. So it just when you hear of a guy or see a guy like doing what Chris Sale is doing and being in the running for obviously a Cy Young and being in potentially having the triple crown as a pitcher, that
Mhm.
that is it's almost weird to a point. I was like, man, how did you end up on this squad? Because Lord
Yeah.
knows he doesn't fit the narrative that we've been following along and covering all season. So for him to be in this spot at this
Yeah.
moment, like you gotta law him up and just hey, look, not a big G, but I can probably definitely do a lowercase G. Like, hey man, you've been something else this year, my brother.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I love this quote from Michael Harris II. He said, I grew up watching him. He was nasty then, and he's still nasty now. And he absolutely is because, like you said, just setting records all over the place, set the franchise record for 9 strikeouts over 7 scoreless innings, becoming the first Braves pitcher since 1912, which, of course, that's when earned runs became an official National League statistic.
Right.
And allowing 2 or fewer earned runs in 15 straight starts. Previous record, 14 starts back in 1939. That's how dominant he is. And like you said, just really, really making the case for himself to be able to be in the conversation for more history overall. Because if Tariq, and I blanking on his last name right now, but the pitcher for the Detroit Tigers, if he happens to win the American League Cy Young, and Chris Sale wins the National League Cy Young, it'll be the first time in Major League Baseball history the two lefties are able to walk away with the Cy Young, which is crazy. And as a southpaw, that makes me very, very happy that
Right.
that can happen. Like I'm all for it. I'm like, yeah, let's do it, man, because we're always on the wrong side of the law or the wrong side of everything. We lefties, we southpaws. But anyway,
I
still
live in
want
a
to
house with a lefty, so I understand your plight.
exactly, yeah, man, we matter, man, we matter.
Yes, absolutely. Left hand matters.
But you think about the fact that it's such a razor thin race as well between Chris Sale and Zach Wheeler. And the thing about it is, who knows what the end result may be? It may be
Sure.
predicated on something like how they end the month of September, or it may be predicated on the fact of, hey, which one of those had the most impact on their team getting to wherever they were in the postseason. But let me throw you this one. If the playoffs happen today, like I said earlier, the Braves would travel to take on the Brewers in the wild card round. Obviously, the Phillies are still in control of their destiny to win the NL East, if not have the best record in the National League. What's more likely to happen with those things considered? Sale winning his first Cy Young, or the Braves battling back to host the wild card series?
Well, that's gonna be a hard road right there for a team when you think about it, because like there is I think it's I feel like we've made a case for a Cy Young, right? You're talking about winning the, being the dude for a team that is figuring out a way to get into the playoffs. I think that says something about how much weight he has to pull when he's on the mound. I know he's not on the mound every day, right? I get that he's not an everyday player, but when you think about when he comes to the mound, I'm talking about streak stoppers. Like, hey, they're on a 4-game losing streak. Oh, Chris Sale coming up. Yep, that's a
Right.
dub. And then you talking about having the triple crown of pitching.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to these awards, I feel like you got to kind of take these in consideration because Zach Wheeler is amazing.
Mhm.
Like, as much as I hate to say that, because you know how I feel about the field, I don't like them. It just goes back a long way for me. So for those of you who are looking at me strange right now or listening to me strange in a strange way, I don't like them. I'm talking about Lenny Dykstra don't like. That's how far I go back to this thing. But when you think about from what Chris Sale's standpoint, I have to say that I feel like that Cy Young award is probably will be the thing that will come first because when you're
Yeah.
talking about, I think they have 3.5 games from the top wild card spot right now. So when
Mhm.
you think about it from that aspect, I feel like there's gonna be it's going to be too much ground to make up because all of those teams are vying trying to push their division leaders. So I feel like it's going to be a race down to the finish for the Braves to be able to finish in the spot they're in right now. So I don't
Mhm.
think they'll be able to get up that far. So yeah, I think that Cy Young Award is where it probably will come before
Yeah.
them having holes in playoff game.
Yeah. I have to agree with you as well because I think it would be difficult. Although the Braves do have a mildly easy schedule in September, such that only the Dodgers will be really giving them the blues. I think it would still be very hard for them to kind of climb that tall mountain. I think it's much more feasible to say we're having a Chris Sale, Tyreek Scobble conversation later on in this year about them winning the Cy Young. Now, we like the highway robbery from MH2, but Whit doesn't like his life being put in jeopardy. We'll get into it and going deep. This episode of the Atlanta Baseball Party is brought to you by eBay Motors. Now, we just talked about it, right? We talked about passion. That's what Chris Sale brings. He brings drive to the plate, and to be able to do what he's done going deep in games, it requires patience. That's the same formula for winning championships. What keeps your ride or die alive, just like what keeps the Braves' hopes alive for the postseason. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride or die every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible terms or items do apply. Exclusions apply as well. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. So Michael Harris the second, Jarvis, is always seemingly doing Michael Harris the second things, but this one a couple days ago might have been just different. Maybe the best catch of the year. He made one of the best catches that we've probably ever seen. Did that, of course, a couple days ago in that series against the Phillies. And we know that Harris has had to deal with injuries this season. And it's been tough because he's been out for long stints of time. And yet he comes back and he looks like that same Michael Harris II, if not better. So how good was it for you to see him, especially playing defense and what we know it takes to be able to make that kind of catch? How good was it to see him continuing to play at a high level?
Yeah, because a lot of times when guys go through injuries, like Michael Harris did, like he was out for 2 months with
Yes.
soft tissue injury. We know how those things can linger,
Hmm.
and a lot of times when you're cleared to play, and when you're talking about the type of player that Michael Harris is, right? Like, he's not just a normal baseball player. The dude is a hell of an athlete, and when you have your opponents that are
Hmm.
watching that play,
Yeah.
up close, because the bullpen for the Phillies were like, "Oh my gosh." He said, "This dude, we I, I I was not, of course I didn't want him to catch it, but oh my
Hmm.
gosh." But when he caught it, I was just like, "Oh, you just have to tip your cap," because that's
Yeah.
just people just don't normally do that. I know we kind of got a little spoiled here in the city of Atlanta with Otis
Hmm.
Nixon and Dion and all those guys being out in that outfield through the years. So, but to have somebody in today's game being able to, one, really honor and lift up the pride of being able to play defense like that, and being doing it on a consistent basis like my MH2 does. That's
Hmm.
the thing that you have to look at, and you have to say, okay, he's himself now.
Yeah.
Or he's him, in the outfield, because the Braves need any little advantage they can possibly get, as we talked about the playoff push, right? Going down in September, we know it's getting close. I think we're about a little bit 20 some odd games, before the season is over with. So now is you're just trying to find every little advantage that you can potentially get as you go into the playoffs, whether it be
Yeah.
defensively, at pitching staff. We know what the advantages that the Braves have with that, right? So
Mhm.
I think that the more that we see these type of things being put on display, the more we have to laud them and say, "Hey, man, keep on doing that because we're gonna need it."
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, it's so because everything is tightening up right now, and every little bit counts. You need good pitching. You need to be able to see your pitchers go into the sixth or seventh inning. You need your
Sure.
bullpen and then come out and make sure that they don't blow the lead or blow an opportunity for the Braves to win. You need better performances at the plate. You talked about Matt Olson and the fact that he went 2 for 20 deep into August. And then all of a sudden he woke up, and that's something that will help the Braves out as well at the plate. But I always say, as you mentioned, since the beginning of time, it feels like the Braves have always hung their hat on the solid defense, especially in the outfield. And we know that outfield has kind of been patchworkish these last couple of weeks. Every time, a player
That's
goes
nice.
down,
You're nice.
I was trying to throw a little euphemism in there, right? Because
Yes.
it's been tough to watch at times what's been
Yes.
happening in the Braves outfield, and to see them at least have that consistency with Michael Harris II. That anything that he's doing when he's in center field, or any time he has the opportunity to send help in the outfield period, you just feel more confident that the Braves have an opportunity, whatever the case may be. If he's robbing a player of a home run, if he's ensuring that a player doesn't get called safe at home, if he's a part of a double play, you always feel, to your earlier point, that if Michael Harris II is involved in that particular play, the Braves have every opportunity for something to go well in their favor. Now, what didn't go so well in the Braves' favor was what happened to Whit Merrifield. He became the latest Braves player to get hit by pitch, and he absolutely blasted it. He said the quote unquote pathetic current state of pitching in Major League Baseball is saying, he also said, rather, something terrible is going to happen if the sport doesn't reintroduce repercussions for throwing wildly inside. He said, quote, "It's BS. It's driving me nuts. I hate where the game is at right now with that," because of course, when you're hitting the head by a 94.5 mile per hour fastball, and the Braves win, at least the Braves got the win in that 3-0 game against the Rockies Tuesday, it makes you feel some type of way. And he went on to say it's ridiculous where the game is right now. He wants to see retribution. I mean, how would you feel, if that were to happen to you? I mean, does Merrifield have a point, Jarvis?
Oh, absolutely. 1000%. Because here's the thing. I had the privilege of watching one Greg Maddux pitch for this team. And when you talk about Greg Maddux, the next word that comes to mind for me is location. He
Yes.
knew exactly where that ball was going, to the point where hitters knew where the ball was going and they still couldn't hit it.
Yeah.
because he was so precise in knowing where that ball was going to end up and knowing where he wanted to place that ball, regardless
Mhm.
of speed. So
Yeah.
for me, now you hear everybody being enamored with this exit velocity and triple
Mhm.
digits from the mound and all that stuff, and this analytical stuff just it's crap when it comes to this, because I
Yeah.
feel like you're a professional, so you
Yes.
should know where the ball is going when it's coming out of your hands. I'm sorry, and you should have some consequences for hitting pitchers. I mean,
Yeah.
hitting batters nowadays in today's game. Yes, I absolutely feel like it should be something implemented because, but what if they didn't mean to do it? I don't care, because guess what? In football, when you ever heard the penalty called targeting, they don't
Yep.
care. Hey man, did you mean to knock that dude neck off on that last play?
Right.
You did. Okay, all right. Here's a flag. You're gone. No, 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 no. They're not doing that. They're saying, hey, that was targeting, and here's why. And we're about to judge whether or not we're about to kick you out of the game or not. You know what I'm saying? Whether or not it was intentional.
Yeah.
So for me, I look at it from a standpoint of, if you dog, I'm at the point now because you can't get retribution back like you used to be able to do back in the day. Like, hey, and you don't have to go into the batter's box and potentially face some consequences in there either. Like, yeah, if you hit somebody up top, if it's a neck above or above, out of there, out of
Yeah.
there. That's where I'm at with it. See, I totally felt with Merrifield on that, because like
Yeah.
you just basically giving them a free run to knock your head off. And
Yeah.
then when you think about it, he's the one that got to go out of the game. So not
Yeah.
only am I potentially being put in danger,
Right.
then I got to suffer by not getting a chink,
Right.
you know, because
Which
I'm gonna
means
be
my
out.
team, yeah, and then my team is jeopardized because I'm going out because Whit
Right.
Merrifield has been playing quite well these last couple of weeks. And that's something that puts the Braves in a precarious situation because now they potentially have to figure out, okay, now we got to, figure like shuffle things yet again. So yeah, that's unfair. And I think you also make a great point, not just in the NFL, but you think about clear path fouls in the NBA, you think about soccer, hockey, that all of that. I mean, they still have fights in hockey, but there are penalties that have been put in place so that they can minimize the amount of injury that happens as a result of it. Same thing with soccer. So why not in baseball in the most critical moment where, like you said, if you can't locate, that's your problem, shouldn't be the other team's problem. And they should not be the team that's penalized for what your pitcher did. Now, the impending return of the heart and soul of the Braves might just pay dividends. We'll talk about that in the stretch. This episode of our Atlanta Baseball Party is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's also the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now also win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. How cool is that? And Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in most states, including California, Texas, and right here in Georgia. So if you want to play Prize Picks alongside other celebrities like Joe Budden or MMA champ Sean O'Malley, you can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. So how do you get it done? Download the Prize Picks app today and use code Locked On MLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. Again, that's code Locked On MLB on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks allows you to run your game. This episode of our Atlanta Baseball Party is also brought to you by Game Time. Now, Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time also has a 50% off Labor Day offer for Diamondbacks versus Dodgers. Of course, that would be not what we're necessarily going to see or be able to take advantage here. But there are a lot of fans out there who could take advantage of some great deals like this that Game Time is offering. So think about it. seat views. You can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Also, game time ticket coverage allows your purchase to be covered with the most flexible customer service policies in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked on MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, and create that account and redeem LOCKEDON MLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. So our own Grant McCauley reports that Ozzie Albies no longer needs to wear a brace on his left wrist, but said his return is trending toward mid to late September, which is in line, of course, with the original 8-week prognosis for Ozzie. Now, Jarvis, he is taking fielding practice for the first time today and continues to work and get swings in the cage, but he's not hitting just yet. But once Ozzie is back in the lineup, does it feel like to you he can be maybe that last spark that the Braves need right before the playoffs start?
You know what? I've been talking about getting all the pieces and weapons and everything that you could possibly find with MH2, whether it be MH2's defense, or Chris Sale continued to be the great, machine that he is on the mound.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ozzie Albies added back into that lineup because the top of the lineup been a little shaky. We're gonna get into it a little bit more, with a person that I feel that should be getting ready to get on a heater at some point, because Lord knows you reached bottom almost, but I think that when you get a guy like that and just who he is and what he means to that locker room, and just being
Mhm.
that locker room type guy, and just being that leader, that
Mhm.
everyone looks to in the locker room. So for me,
Yeah.
I feel like he's a guy that he can be a catalyst for this
Mhm.
team when you insert him back into the lineup. And I just feel like, hey, like the more we hear these things, that means just, hey, Ozzie is close, and I'm really looking forward to him getting back. And now the only concern that I have, of course,
Mhm.
talking about mid-September, that
Yeah.
means we're only gonna have a few games before it's playoff time, or we start gonna really get down to at cutting time. I
Yeah.
don't want to mention the other word, but it's gonna be cutting time. So I feel like we'll be hard pressed to kind of. He's gonna. I don't want him to be pressed to try to be at the plate, do something at the plate because of the time that they have once he gets back.
Yeah, and I think hopefully the Braves will be in a position where they can actually slowly kind of bring him back. Like they won't be in a position where they're pressing him to come back to the lineup. I think to your earlier point, we are seeing some life in guys like Matt Olson, so that might give a little bit of opportunity for them not to need to press to bring someone back into the fold. As far as offensive productivity, I think that's important. And like you said, you're looking at Ozzie Albies and taking nothing away, by the way, from his productivity or his production when he's on the actual baseball field. But I think Ozzie's the heart and soul of this team. Ozzie's the guy
Sure.
that gets everybody going. He's the guy that helps to keep things together. And we talked about Whit Merrifield and the fact that he has been much more solid in the last couple of weeks. So he's in position to make sure as well, or putting the Braves in position to make sure that they don't have to rush Ozzie Albies back. So I think this will be good, but you got to look at it too from the perspective of not necessarily another Braves guy coming off injury, but they probably need to see at least someone other player or so catch fire. So for you, which other Brave do you want to see finally catch fire in this final month of the regular season?
Jorge, listen up, sir. I need you to be. I know for the month of August, you've been pretty solid, right? You've never been an average guy, so I don't necessarily going to look at your batting average. I get that. I understand that ain't your thing, right? But these last 10 games, sir, you have been hitting 69. 69. I know batted average ain't your thing, but I need to be better than that.
Yeah, yeah,
We
yeah.
can't, we can't, we can't go into the playoffs, and he's been a guy that has been getting a lot of walks, T, but he's been striking out
I know.
a lot lately, like
Yeah.
11. He had
6
11
times in
strikeouts.
7 days.
Yes, yes, T. So he's been striking out a lot, and that's not a good sign, because we know that he's been a guy that bit not necessarily get a hit, but he'll go yard, he'll get on the heater going yard. But He'll definitely be able to draw walks in opportune times. You know,
Yeah.
when those moments come up. So for me, I feel like it has to be Jorge Soler because
Yeah.
69 is unacceptable at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. And not just you. I mean, yeah, 69 is unacceptable, period. And I think, too, it's kind of easy to, and I would agree with you, by the way, because I think everyone else has shown shades of getting back to who they are. We talked about Matt Olson already, of course, but even a
Austin
Travis
Riley
Darno.
before he got hurt, he was
Exactly.
killing it.
But
Yeah,
even the ones who are still on the field, Travis Darno, he's
sure.
given a little bit more than he's been able to. Orlando Arcia has been solid, and we don't even have to go into what Marcell Ozuna has been able to do. So if we're looking up and down that batting order, sir, that is why Alex Anthopoulos brought you back, so that you've got to show improve. But he's a guy who we're calling out and saying we need to see you do better because you haven't done better. There's a guy who's been consistently doing the thing this entire season, and finally in the month of August, he was acknowledged for it. Raisel Iglesias, National League Reliever of the Month honors, didn't allow a run over 11 appearances. That's 13 and a third innings. 3-0 with 6 saves, struck out 14 without a walk, and has a streak of 38 consecutive hitters retired. Is Iglesias the unsung hero and maybe the brightest spot we don't talk about or haven't talked about this year?
Absolutely. Just for those reasons you mentioned, when you think about leading up, going into the month of August, like you always kind of expect to kind of get like a little sweat brow moment, like wipe your brow a little bit because like, all right,
Yes.
Russell,
Where
okay,
we're going.
let's get it. All right, here, this is what we're doing today. All right, okay, let's get it figured out. But that hasn't been the case this last month. So I think that when you think about, I don't know, and I'll maybe talk to some baseball purists, when Grant joins us next week, and I just kind of talk to him about like as far as the value of the closer because of you got so many guys that are being used in a game coming out of the bullpen because I know I just remember the closer just being such a big deal back in the day. And I think now is when you have so many guys with these specialized, situations being put into games and stuff like that. I don't know if the value is as high as it used to be for closers in today's game. So I feel like, for us on the baseball party and for the city of Atlanta, we should get this man his flowers because he has earned them bad boys for sure.
Yeah, and if the Braves have those moments where they've got games where it's close, or if it's a situation where, hey, look, the Braves didn't have a lot of run production throughout that game, and it's one of those 3-2 type of games, this is the guy that you want, and that's how important he is, especially with the wild card race as tight as it is going into the stretch of September. Now, the Braves play tonight again, of course, the Rockies. It is ludicrous bobblehead night. Woohoo! Now, it's not every day that the Braves have one of these because, of course, we saw the last time it was Outkast that had their bobblehead night. So for you, Jarvis, who's the next hip hop artist from the A who should get a bobblehead?
Wow. I was thinking about this when you just sent this over. I was just like, man, who could get a bobblehead that might be interesting.
Yeah.
And I kind of been on some old school Jeezy as of late. So that
Oh,
was the first one to kind of so when you think about it from that standpoint, I was like, all right,
yeah, yeah.
Outkast always gonna get love. Luda,
Sure.
not so much.
Yeah.
Y'all can check out Big Gibbs verbiage on that, and I agree with him. Y'all can check that out. But yeah, I think overall, like when you think about what G's brought to the table, oh man, this that hardcore. Yeah, yeah, I think he deserves a bobblehead now
Yeah.
because we talking about Outkast and Ludacris getting bobbleheads. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Jeezy deserves it as well. So yeah, there we go.
Yeah. I would
Poor
have
man
to
himself. Yes.
I would have to agree with you as well because the only other that I could kind of think of would be, and I don't think they've had a bobblehead quite yet because you mentioned Gip. So of course that's where my mind kind of
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
That's where my mind kind of went as well. But yeah, I'm still with you. I think Jeezy is up in 2025 for the Braves bobblehead. Thanks to our everydayers for making the Atlanta baseball party your first listen of the day. Be sure to stop by Locked On Braves for your second listen, and be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel We're also free and available wherever you download your podcast. We'll see you on the Atlanta Sports Party Thursday.